Hi, this is Dr. Richard Ruling here to share with you on the topic of the Big Bang Theory, why it's a bad bet, and Sir Isaac Newton's math is better, and it supports an impending destruction of Jerusalem, and then U.S. is next in judgment. How could these things be? Well, first let's look at the science worldview today. We came from a Big Bang, did we? Well, their theories are always increasing or diminishing the period of Earth's development by millions of years. If they're so accurate and right, why does it keep changing, and why do their theories conflict with one another? Well, we're going to look at just a few questions. If we exploded off the sun, and there are about 10 planets in our solar system, if we changed places with any one of them, we would be in deep trouble. We really couldn't handle even a few thousand miles closer to the sun or further away. We would already the summers are really bad lately, and what about winter? We might be like Siberia if we were further away. And how did the Earth develop a spin? Our days are just right with 24-hour periods. What if there was no spin at all? We'd cook on one side and freeze on the other. What about the atmosphere? How did we get an atmosphere with 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen, which is just right for us? And how about the oceans? Where do they come from? There's no ocean on the sun. Impossible. You know, this is, if we don't want to believe the Bible record of how it came about, there are dozens of unanswered questions, and they don't even, what we've talked about doesn't even begin to address how life began, okay? The possibility that the DNA, which we have in us, Anthony Flew, famed atheist, when he considered its complexity, said, no way. He changed his mind to believe in God, okay? So, yes, it should be life-changing for all of us. Why these scientists don't want to be accountable to their Maker and don't want to believe in the Bible, I'm not sure. But I think, as Pascal said in his wager, this was nearly 400 years ago, he was a mathematician and a physicist, but said, you know, we can't prove the existence of God or not, but at the end of life, if the Christian is wrong, he doesn't lose anything, but if the atheist is wrong, he loses everything. So why not bet on the positive side? I'd like to look at some things from Sir Isaac Newton's perspective, first of all. Isaac Newton was perhaps one of the greatest minds of all times. He was into optics and discovered the colors from a prism. He discovered lenses, and he was an astronomer. He formulated the law of gravity, laws of motion, which enable us to put rockets up into space and on the moon. Brilliant man, translated sections of the Bible, and he defended vigorously the age of the earth as dating to 4,000 years prior to creation, prior to BC. Okay, 4,000 BC, which with 2,000 since then is 6,000. Why is that important? Well, the Bible says God gives man in the fourth commandment, it says 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. And Peter says 1,000 years is like a day. So God is giving us 6 days and 6,000 years, and time is about up. And if you look around, it could be that way, you know. So why not consider the biblical evidence of how we got here, specifically more accurate timing than maybe even Sir Isaac Newton had. In the Bible, most Christians know about Daniel 9:24 and 5, where God gives Israel 70 weeks of years. And they pointed really to the Messiah. They missed the boat, the Jews did, in verse 25, because they should have counted 69 weeks of years, 483 years, to the Messiah, which dated to his baptism by John the Baptist. But what I'm coming to is, those 70 weeks, 490 years, span 10 Jubilees. Jubilees came after 49 years, 50th was Jubilee, but it was also number one of the next sequence. So they were 49 years apart. 10 Jubilees to the time of Messiah, and then 40 more Jubilees. The Jubilee of Jubilees was 1995, when Pope John Paul went to the UN on the Day of Atonement, which was the only day in the year to proclaim Jubilee. So hello, huge significance. And then a 20-year gap until Pope Francis also went to the UN, also on the Day of Atonement. Why the 20-year gap? Well, if you remember what Peter said, to not be ignorant about this, that 1,000 years is like a day, God is not slack, the day of the Lord will come. Put the Jubilees into the 1,000 years. Integrate them, okay? And 490 years plus 490 more make 980 there are 20 years left over at the end, and they're marked by the papal visits to the UN on the Days of Atonement, both times. Huge significance, and this suggests to me that the 1,000 years is up, but if you divide a 1,000, this was 2015, if you divide 1,000 by 7, it doesn't go evenly. There's one more year to finish out the week of years, if you follow, and that would be 2016. But then if you take into 6,000 years, like we're talking about, 5,999 is divisible by 7, which is the year 2016. But the one more year for the 6,000th year would be 2017. So after 2017, we are finishing the 6,000 years, and we're on borrowed time. So that makes it, 2018 is a time for judgment. And if this calculation is right, we should see Jerusalem destroyed in the near future, because Zechariah 14:1 and 2 says, the day of the Lord comes, all nations will be gathered against Jerusalem. So, hello, we don't see it yet, but if this happens, America will be next with judgment the following spring. In that case, if we see Jerusalem destroyed, I'd like to encourage everybody to get a copy of this book, Destruction of Jerusalem. You see the wedding down below? The wedding parables are not about a quick rapture to heaven. God took Israel out of Egypt to a covenant and later said, I'm married to you. And hello, I think history is going to repeat. Egypt killed babies, but we've aborted 60 million. Egypt enslaved people, Israel, but we've enslaved nearly all people in alcohol, tobacco, drugs. We call it health care, but it's a leading cause of death. People are free to choose their food, fashion, fiction, greed, gambling, sex, perversion. Great freedoms, but it's a way of death, really, these things. And so God is going to deliver a covenant-keeping people and has a plan for them, which we need to understand better. Thank you for considering this. God bless you, and see you at the top.